I want to document a very keen finding here. This is pretty much my snubber, aka just a resistor and a diode going from the negative going into the primary. This is basically after the Mosfet out. And then current direction going from that into backfeeding into the positive here, which is what feeds into our cell on the positive. So kind of like this thing, but not with a capacitor and a coil. So the resistor and a diode. Very rudimentary, pretty inefficient. However, when we switch from this 20 ohm, which is what we had, to this 2 ohm, we get completely different wave output on our cells, as you'll see here indicated with the blue and the green. I'm going to show you with the 2 ohm real quick, just to show you what I'm receiving here. Power on here, and check this out. Once we get up to a certain voltage, this is kind of like what I'm calling the shark fin waveform. When I get here on the positive, the blue here, and the green here, during that pulse off time is kind of flat. It's kind of starting to progress a little bit, but what I want to show here is that we get up to a certain point here. We're at 2 volts in, 4 amps, and once I get up to a certain voltage here, look during that pulse on time, and that negative polarity pulse builds. Look at that. Can't do that for very long because my Mosfet is not rated for the amperage. I'm pushing 8 amps when I get to that condition. Look at that. Boop. I'm going to pause it so we can see here. Opposite polarity charge from this. Look, we have a positive polarity charge, opposite polarity charge. We're beginning to build that charge there. And that's exactly what we want, equal and opposite, and we're getting to that voltage level to where that is possible. But I do want to show you here during the pulse off time, back to my main topic here, we have this 0 point line, 0 volts, where that arrow is right there. So we have voltage in the cell always, that gap here. It looks like 2 blocks there. Burp, burp. So, same thing goes on the negative side. We have polarity or charge build up in that capacitor and spiking it basically during that pulse on time. But right here during the pulse off time, you can see right there, that has space and there's space there, which means there's a charge build up in there. So I'm going to switch this back to the 20 ohm resistor to show you what the waveform looks from there. Part 2 of our video here, waveform. Now, do you see how this dips much more? It was, about right here. We're not full voltage yet either, but you can see equal opposite polarity charges being there. I'm going to bring that up to about the same deal and stop it. During that pulse off time, like I was showing you, see how this dips down closer to 0, whereas the other resistor did not allow for that. It kept a charge inside of the cells. And again, these blue and green here are measured at the cell, and this resistor here is backfeeding our primary. It's the shunt, the snubber of this circuit. It's the primary here affecting how the output to the cell actually looks and reacts. You'll see the other video we just had here, these green weren't more of just like a quarter circle or rotation, whatever you call it. They were more of like an entire bump and back down. They were a complete cycle, if you will, rather than this kind of like half cycle right there. Very different waveforms for something on the primary being altered. So there's something very keen to that I wanted to point out. I'm going to point out that I'm going to try maybe some other resistances if I can cobble them together to see what I get, how that affects the waveform, and maybe some type of unlock about how the primary is wound and the waveform that we're expected to get. So that might have something very much to do with our output. More to come later, guys.
This is Stan's Revenge.